We're glad to be able to join with all of you. I am joined here with my colleague, Andre Backus, and we have one of our current candidates, Daniela Quintana, and we hope to be joined by another. They're on their placements right now, and things oftentimes come up. So you may see Ronan Chernyavsky, hopefully, by the end of this session. We're really glad to have all of you join for this session. Just to give you an idea of what we're going to talk about, we're going to show you the agenda, first of all, as we move forward and give you a sense of what we are talking about through these next 60 to 70 minutes. We've got the welcome. I'll talk a little bit more about the program overview. We'll have it over to Andre to talk about the work experience component. We're then going to hear from either Daniela or with Ronan as well. You're going to have a chance for questions, although we can also sort of field some of them as they're coming in over the next little while and some just final wrap ups. And we're hoping that by at the very least, 1 o'clock, we'll stop the regular conversation and have some additional follow-ups if we need to take us until 1:15. We realize that time is important to everybody. Before we started, just wanted to say when we looked at the registrations, we saw people from across not just Canada, but across the world. There's some of you who are tuning in from different parts of the world as well. Welcome to everybody. I said good afternoon, but it could be good evening or good morning to some of you, depending on where you're joining us from. And we also have people who are from across the training components spectrum. What I mean by that is we noticed that there were some first year law students who had registered and some second year law students, and we love to see people who are preparing their information and getting data well ahead of time. So kudos to anybody who's in first and second year and listening to this and has joined us. And then we also see people who are in their third year who are at a law school right now and are looking to join the licensing process, as well as those who are already in it, whether they have graduated from law school or in the NCA process. And it's a wide group of people that are joining us. So welcome to each and every one of you. We're really excited. Andre, before we get started, any other welcoming remarks before we talk about the program interview overview?
Thank you so much, Gina. That sounds wonderful. It's great to be here with everyone. And as you said, we have folks from everywhere joining us. So we're looking forward to giving you the information you need today, but also encouraging you as well, if other questions come up after today's session, to visit our website and to also visit the FAQs that we have available online. These are the questions that people ask all the time that all of you will benefit from as well. So, Gina, back over to you.
Thank you. And I see that Ronan has joined us. Hello, welcome to Ronan. We're glad that you're able to spend some time with us. So let's get started in terms of what the LPP is, because for many people, you're not sure of what this possibility is, what the option is. We're going to try and give you as much both general information, then some detail as we go through it. I think you'll hear from Daniela and Ronan later. Until you experience it, you can't get the full taste of it, but we're going to give you a bit of an overview. To begin with, though, as we say in the very first line, we are one of three licensing paths offered by the LSO. So currently, after you have finished your legal education, to get called to the bar in Ontario, and I'm not going to repeat the fact that it's an Ontario licensing program, other than this time, I'll just say it is an Ontario licensing program. There are certain pathways that you can take. You can either article, which is the most historically well-known and traditional way of doing it. You can do an IPC at one of the two schools that offer the integrated practice curriculum, or you can take the law practice program, the LPP, and all of those are the equivalent form of the experiential requirement that the licensing process has. So I just wanted to start off with that it is a pathway, an equivalent pathway by the Law Society for getting licensed in Ontario as a lawyer. So what else do we mean by it? What do we mean by the LPP? It is an 8-month program, and it's a commitment that you're making full time to an 8-month program. Just as you would commit to the other two pathways, we really do ask for a full commitment for the 8 months that you're in it. Typically, end of August to the end of April is what the commitment requires. We have a couple of weeks in December when there's a bit of a break, but otherwise, it's really from the end of August to the end of April. It's broken into two parts that are really intertwined. So even though we're going to be talking about them as separate parts, we need you to understand that they are all part of the experiential learning that you're doing for your licensing requirement. The first 4 months and I'll dive into it a little bit more so in a second, is the training component. As we reference it, is the training component. And you'll see what we're trying to simulate there when we get to the details of it is it's a simulated work experience. And then in the second half, you have your actual work experience that's no longer simulated. You're out there in the real world. Both are really incredibly important for you to understand, to experience, to fully commit to. When you are thinking about how to register for the LPP, we'll talk about this a little bit later again, because I'm sure the question will come up. You select the LPP as your licensing path within the LSO's portal. So when you have the opportunity to select your licensing pathway, select the LPP. And what I would say is the following. If you're unsure at this point, there's nothing stopping you from selecting the LPP. Learn more about it. You can wait if you need, but learn more about it. I think by the end of today, we'll probably have answered many of your questions. Select the registration requirement of LPP through the LSO. You don't do that first step with us. You have to do it through the LSO. We won't get your information until you select it with the LSO. Andre has the website up there, and later on, I'm going to also link the FAQs in the chat, just so that you have a link to the chat. Because I think it's not to the chat, to the FAQs, and we'll link it into the chat so that you have all the information available. So that's a real big program overview. We are first of all, equivalent to all the other pathways. We are an 8-month program. It's a full-time commitment, and you need to make the first step by selecting it in the LSO pathway. Let's talk a little bit more about what the first component is, the training component. And some of you may have a bit of an idea. Others may have heard things loosely. We wanted to give you some concrete information. You'll see this sheet on our website as well. But just to give you an idea of what we expect, we've got the time 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the reason we say that is because it is intended to be a simulation of a work environment, a simulation of going to work. You are in your legal education now or have already completed that. When you join the LPP, we say you're joining work from the moment that you start in August. And so that has all the requirements of joining from work, from dressing appropriately to dressing professionally to being on time for things, for making sure that you have your calendar handy to be able to understand what deadlines are and whatnot. From August to December, you're going to be working with a number of other people, and I'll explain what that means. And you're going to be, in essence, working on several different simulated files. The candidates for those 4 months, 16 weeks, are put into, and you'll hear the term VLF, virtual law firms. We were the first to sort of pioneer having virtual law firms as part of the training. But I'll also say this, pre-pandemic, we were also the first that actually got people working together in a virtual way across business lines. And it was really important because after the world changed, many people started working from home, working remotely on a regular basis. Our candidates already had that exposure and that training from early on in the training component. So you're put into a virtual law firm with 4 to 5 other colleagues, candidates, randomly. You don't get to ask which firm that you're going to be in. So please don't send us emails about that. It's random. You are paired with a mentor. We have about 60 mentors who are practicing lawyers across Ontario, and they have differing practice areas and minimum of 3 years experience, but the majority of them have 8, 10, 15 years of experience. The number of years of experience of our mentors is quite incredible. You meet with your mentors and your full group at least once a week, oftentimes more, as a group, to review the files, to review the materials that you're dealing with. You also meet one-on-one with these mentors to be able to get some specific feedback. Twice a month, you meet with the mentors to be able to engage them individually. So you have the opportunity, which is phenomenal, to have 2 different mentors, one in the first part and then one in the second part from November to December. 2 people with different experiences, different practice areas that you're able to really connect with. And I can't also discount the importance of your virtual law firm, of your colleagues, the ability to work with four or five other people on a regular basis on files and to grow your network, not just with them, because we have the opportunity for you to also grow your network with the other colleagues. We have anywhere from 225 to 250 people per year. That becomes your cohort. That becomes your network. That becomes the group that you're going to be connecting with. And Daniela and Ronan are also part of our governing a governance structure that we have, and they can speak later on about the benefit of having that kind of a cohort. So in the training component, you're engaging with people remotely. We don't have any live required sessions. We have a few optional sessions that we host, but it's all done remotely, and you're engaging with your colleagues, you're engaging with your mentors, and you're doing work. We call them deliverables because for anybody who's been out in the workforce, it's not an assignment, it's not a test, it is work that you're doing. And we fundamentally believe in the following notion. You practice something, you get some feedback, you reflect on that feedback and think about what you've done, and then you practice it again. You practice it again, get some additional feedback, get some reflection on it, and then we finally have what we reference as assessments at the end of it. So really, and a common phrase for us is this is not meant to be a gotcha program in any way, shape, or form. It's not meant to be school. You're building skills along the way, and I want to talk about what those skills are because we talk about the skills specifically, and the tools that we use are the case files, but they are tools to help you develop the skills. We're looking at research, analysis, communications, practice management, client management. I don't think I've missed, I think I feel like I've missed one. And help me out with the skills for a second, because I'm looking at the skills. Those are the skills in particular. And what I will say is the following. With practice management and client management, many people come to the program and really haven't thought about the expectations that the Law Society has on future lawyers in terms of practice management and client management. For some of you, you may have dealt with clients in a clinic, or you may have volunteered somewhere or been working somewhere. You might come with a different background and understand some client relationship requirements. We put that in the context of legal files, and I think it's really critical. Practice management, again, from a student mode, thinking about what you might have to do in 2 months or in 3 months or in 3 weeks, is very different than having some things to deal with on a very, very regular basis. So the skills that you're trying to build are really quite critical as you move along. And the one that I completely forgot and is absolutely mandatory is professionalism. I thank you to my colleague Lee, who is reminding me of professionalism. It's part of what you're experiencing as well. So, of course, you're learning practice management. Of course, you're learning management, oral and written communications, legal research and analysis. Ethics and professionalism are critical to all of you as future lawyers. And so we weave that throughout the work that you're doing. And as I used earlier, the tools that we use, primarily the virtual law firm, include simulated cases. And those simulated cases are across 7 practice areas. And so you get to experience them all. It's not that you get to pick and choose. I only like civil litigation or I only want administrative law. You have to do files in all of them. So family, civil litigation, criminal law, estates, wills and estates rather, um, real estate, and you get to experience both litigation-based files as well as solicitor-based files. And being able to contextualize them, taking a file from start to finish is really, really important, really critical. We often say that things happen very quickly in our process in terms of getting a file from your client meeting through to the end, but it means that you've had touch points and simulated experience in all of the likely areas you're going to find in the next little while. And of course, we have assessments. So at the partway mark in October and the partway, and then at the end of December, those files reach a natural conclusion, and you have assessments again by members of the profession who come in and review, give feedback, and support the development of all of you on an ongoing basis. So I just want to highlight a couple of points before I turn it over to Andre. The program has been supported and built by subject matter experts in who are leading their areas. And so when you come to work on the files, you're working on aspects that you would see in a real world situation. You're supported here and supervised, if you will, by your mentors, the mentors that you see on a weekly basis. So when you think about the leading experts in various subject areas, when you think about the people who are working in the profession as your mentors, and then have the ability to also be assessed by additional lawyers who are coming in to see you grow and develop, you're getting a lot of interaction with members of the Ontario Bar, which I think is phenomenal. We'll put the prospective candidate FAQs in the chat, the link to it in the chat. I wanted just to pause there and see if there's any quick questions or any additional comments before we move it on to, you need to complete this first part in order to move to the next part, which is the work experience part. But what I'll say is that you're doing them a little bit at the same time, and Andre will explain that. It's going to be an intense 8-month period, including the first 4 months, but we're helping you to develop as you move along as well. It's a supportive group that has high expectations of people because we know from our past experience that when we set those expectations high, people rise up and actually meet them. Andre, I'm going to leave it there and move it over to you.
Thank you so much, Gina. I'm actually going to add in a little bit on the training overview as well that you had mentioned. All these different tasks that folks are doing. And when you think about it across these variety of areas, there's really no other type of experience or experiential learning component that offers this. So if one were to contrast it to articling as an example, you would sort of walk into someone's office, work with them for 8 to 10 months, and have the opportunity to just work on whatever comes in their door or whatever they focus in on. Whereas at the LPP, you're in fact getting exposure to a number of different areas across a variety of different tasks, which we've designed specifically to ensure that you're getting the most robust type of experience to set you up for success once you're at the bar and you're being called with entry level competence. So there's no other type of experience that can give you that. If you walked into a criminal law firm, you might only be doing criminal law for that entire 8 to 10. If you were in a business firm, you would only be doing business for that 8 to 10, or a civil litigation boutique, or in IP, or in something else. So as a result, you really are very focused in a given area and developing those skills, hopefully, and demonstrating them. But in our case, you're getting it across a variety of areas, giving you the chance to find, first off, a little bit about yourself, to learn about the things that you do enjoy, but also to recognize and develop the skills that you may not have thought about that you will need as part of the licensing process, and what the LSO has designated as entry level competence across the board, because once you have a license, you can work across a variety of areas. So our training component really provides that foundation. And Gina, you were going to add in?
And I do want to just add in, Andre, because before we move on, there's a question about, do you need to be in Ontario to do the first part, or can you do it in another province? And the answer is, our preference and our strong recommendation is that everybody complete the program from within Ontario, because
Yeah.
as you'll hear in a second, the requirement to get a placement really would be beneficial if you actually can conduct your network, make your interviews in Ontario, and Andre will talk a little bit about that. So
Yeah.
while it's not
Yeah.
a mandatory requirement, it's strongly, strongly
Yeah.
recommended. And Andre, let's just move on
Yeah, sure.
to the other part at this point.
Yeah, sure. And Gina, on that point as well, when it comes to Ontario for the training component, um, we've had candidates try this from outside of the province. And we can honestly tell you, with our 12 years of experience doing this, they find it extremely difficult and in many cases do not complete the program. So we want to be very clear and upfront with you on on that point, that it is 8 months. It is an Ontario program, Ontario licensing. This is geared, designed for, to prepare you for practicing law in this province, because that's what it's all about. So, as Gina mentioned, I'm going to focus in now my comments on the next part, which is the work experience. And as Gina said, these are fully integrated together. So, while the work experience is a full time commitment from January to April, much like you would be in an articling situation working in someone's practice, you're working full time. So, you can't juggle anything else as part of that. Same goes for the training component. You're working full time. You can't really juggle anything else beyond that because you're fully busy. And as part of being able to succeed in the work experience, you've got to be able to network and build community and do the interviews while being here in Ontario to secure one of these. So let's talk a bit about this. When it comes to candidates, uh, in the work experience, you have to be located in the province of Ontario. You cannot do your work experience in any way or shape remote outside of this province. You are in the province during the January to April period. So that is an absolute requirement. There's no movement on any of that. The other thing that we get a question about quite often is, are you guaranteed a work experience? Well, I would love to be able to say that to you, and I know Gina would as well in our team, but that is not something that we get to control. This is a real world marketplace where you're going to be applying for opportunities. You're going to be in a competitive process, and the employers make the final decision. So it's really critical for you to appreciate that this is something that is in your control as part of succeeding and securing. It's not something that we can guarantee. So I want everyone to be clear on that. We do not guarantee a role, but what we can say is that you follow our advice, which is we encourage you to apply broadly to the roles that we post, because we do procure opportunities with employers we've worked with over the years. We post them in the job board. You get to apply to those postings. And we also encourage you to conduct your own outreach as well. It's important to note, though, that when you are applying to the jobs that we post, we have particular rules and procedures around that. And one of them includes that if you're going to be participating in that process, you've got to accept the first role offered to you as part of that. So if you apply to 10 roles and the first one who offers you, that's the one you've got to select as part of your work experience. It's not an option of waiting to hear from them all. This is a real world process. The other thing to keep in mind, as I mentioned, is employers make the final hiring decision. We can't control that. This is truly their game. They get to decide, just like they do with articling or anything else, who they want on their team after interviewing, after reviewing your cover letter and your resume, after really assessing the skills that you bring to the table. What we can say is that during the training component, you're developing some really great skills as part of the training that you can then demonstrate and build upon as part of the work experience. In addition to that, we offer a number of professional development sessions throughout the work experience period, as well as during the training component to help you on the path towards securing and on the path to developing your skills for success in your placement. But that means that you have to then balance the work experience hunt, the professional development sessions, and all of the 110 different tasks in the training component simultaneously from August to December to be able to then secure, land, and move forward in January to April with the work experience. So when Gina says this is a full-time commitment for 8 months, it really is a full-time commitment. You're not in a position to be able to run off doing something else. And we have seen it happen time and time again where candidates think they can juggle. And we all try to be superhuman and juggle and do things. But sometimes you need to know where your limits might be in order to find success. Because what ends up happening usually is you stretch yourself too thin, and the first thing to fall is usually this program. And as a result, you end up withdrawing or being an incomplete for the program, not being able to complete. So you really need to think carefully, set aside the time, and be focused on it to find success. The other part about this as well is once you're in your work experience, our time with you continues. We're doing check ins with you, with the employer, to be able to ensure that things are going well. Because in the end, we have to basically attest to the Law Society that you are developing the skills and growing and are completing the requirements of the work experience. Unlike articling, where no one is there to support you if things are happening in a difficult way, we are there to support you with the employer when you are working for the 4 months. So we are here with you throughout the entire 8 month period, 4 months of training, 4 months of the work experience to help you along the way to make sure you're finding success. But again, we cannot guarantee that success. It is really up to you to leverage the resources that we provide, to do the work that's necessary, to demonstrate the skills, and to ultimately give your full commitment. If you fall down in any of those areas or fall short in any of those areas, the likelihood of success can be very small. And there's nothing we can do to reverse that because we are a licensing program. We are here as part of the LSO from the perspective of administering a regulatory component of the licensing process to ensure that you have the entry level competent skills to be able to go into the bar and meet the requirements to be able to, from their perspective, protect the public from folks who don't have the necessary skills. So it's important that you demonstrate and you do the things that are necessary on that front. We strongly encourage all of you, and I know Gina has posted this in the chat for you to take a look at, is to review the FAQs carefully. I'm going to switch my screen for a moment to take you to our website. So when you're on our website, this is the homepage. And on the homepage and throughout the website, you're going to find this menu bar. Look at the prospective candidate section, and please take a look at the FAQs for prospective candidates. When you go here, you're going to find a lot of information. Click the load more area and read all of these. We have 12 years of experience with all the kinds of questions, issues, concerns, all the types of things you might be wondering about or maybe concerned about. Review these. Click on the little plus symbol located next to the given question, and you will find the answer. So, as an example, how will candidates be evaluated? Click the plus symbol, and there's your answer. Or in other cases, it can be a lot longer than that. What is expected in the training component? Here you go. Is the work experience, will you be assigned to a work experience? Click the plus symbol, and here's a very lengthy, detailed answer to help you appreciate what that means. So please review carefully this area. You can also on the website, and we encourage you to do this as well, take a look at our alumni section as well to learn about the folks who participated in the program over these 12 years and where they have been and what success they have found. Their stories are all up here for you to be able to leverage and learn about. And who knows, one day you could be up here in the alumni success story section as well. But again, you need to do your homework and learn as much as you can. I'm going to flip back over now to the LPP slides here. Again, visit the site. I'm now going to shift gears a little bit, unless Gina, you have anything else to add before I move ourselves over to the panel time.
No, because I think some of the questions, Andre, that are that are coming up in the Q&A will probably be answered. People are asking about, can I work during the first half? Some concerns about, what will happen if I don't get a job for January to April. I think a lot of that might come out in the panel discussion as we move forward. And I think the deadline for registering for LPP on our website. So again, that information is there for you as well. So let's hear from
Wonderful.
Ronan and from Daniela as well.
Thank you so much, Gina. All right, then. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be the moderator for our panel discussion with Daniela and Ronan. And I'm going to start off first with Ronan for a moment. And I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your current role, and maybe also where you went to school and also the kinds of things that brought you toward the LPP. Ronan, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Andre. Um, Hello, everyone. So, a little bit about me. I'm a graduate of Osgoode Hall Law School, and I'm currently completing my LPP work placement as an in-house role at the Legal and Compliance Group in Capital Group, Canada. As part of my role, I assist the legal team with drafting agreements and amendments, preparing meeting notes, conducting a minute book review, and supporting with legal research and memo drafting. I've been learning how the business operates, which is something I wasn't fully expecting at first, which is great, and how in-house actually works with the team to provide practical, risk-aware support to the business stakeholders. As Andre and Gina mentioned before, I'm also an executive member of the LPP Candidate Association, where we work to build the community among the candidates and act as a liaison between the candidates and the program administration.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ronan. Appreciate it. Daniela, same question over to you.
Thank you, Andre, and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and learning a little bit more about the LPP. So I'm currently working at Rights Law, which mainly does family law and mediation. So currently in my role, I essentially do a little bit of everything. So I type up affidavits, I meet with clients for intakes, I draft up draft agreements, draft separation agreements. I've attended some case conferences. I was just in court this morning for our first appearance. Um, a little bit about myself. I graduated from Windsor Law this past June. I did the single program because I know in Windsor you can do like a dual JD, which is when you get your American JD at the same time. So I just did a Canadian. Um, and yeah, that's basically it. A little bit more about the role. I also do draft up financial statements and things like that. I just do a little bit of everything.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Daniela. And Daniela and Ronan, and I'll start with you, Daniela, on this. What made you decide to choose the LPP as your path for licensing? And has it, so far, now that you've been in your work experience for the last around 6 weeks, 7 weeks, thereabouts, how has it prepared you for the work that you are doing right now?
Yeah, so I first learned about the LPP at school when there was sort of like a workshop that sort of explained the licensing process and the different avenues that you could take towards licensing. When I first came into law school, everybody was just sort of talking about articling. So I initially only thought that that was, the only path for me to take. And so I went to the workshop to try and understand a little bit more about how licensing works. That's when I learned about the LPP. All my friends were looking for articling, so I thought, well, hey, that's probably what I have to be doing too. So I started looking for articling. I had several interviews, and it got to the point where I still hadn't secured a position, and I didn't want to be, just like sitting here and waiting for something to happen. And because I knew that the LPP was an option for me, and because of the fact that I myself didn't really know what sort of law I wanted to get into, I decided that the LPP was the best course of action for me because of the amount of different practice areas that they offer. I will say when I was in law school, I was a lot more shy. I wasn't really open to joining a lot of community or club activities. And being part of the LPP really helped me open up and develop more confidence in myself. And it gave me the initiative to be able to take tasks that I'm being given head on out in the placement now that I don't think I would have ever been able to say yes to with confidence and get it done well. Um, had I not taken the LPP. So the LPP was a great way for me to be sort of introduced to the practical aspects of different subject areas in law, whether it be criminal or family. I'm in family law right now, and I had no idea that this is something that I would enjoy or I would see myself doing. But being able to join, be part of a VLF, and be able to talk to the clients and sort of do intake and get to know them more and figure out how to do practice management, which you don't really learn in law school, and it's really, really important when you're out in the real world. So that's definitely another big plus for me is being able to learn how to sort of interact and get that experience face to face with clients and get the client management aspects down as well as practice management because file organization is really important, where things go, how things are served. So there's been so many things that have just really worked in my favor because of the fact that I had this experience with the LPP and a lot of just practical stuff. Sometimes my supervising lawyer will ask me to do something, and I'm like, oh, I know exactly what that is because I've done it before. And not that many people can say that. So.
That is amazing to hear, Daniela. Thank you so much for sharing. Wonderful to hear about the confidence that you boost that you've gotten, as well as those practical skills to be able to tackle those tasks head on in your placement, and also the area of law that you hadn't necessarily considered originally before. That is great to hear. Thank you, Ronan. Same question over to you. Do tell.
Thank you. Following after Daniela's wonderful explanation is going to be very hard to follow up, but so a little bit of my story getting into the LPP and now my placement before is a little bit of a different trajectory than expected. So when I started, I actually heard about the LPP before I even went into law school. It was all part of my pre-research planning of how I'm going to go through everything. And even then, I didn't actually think to go to the LPP. I thought of the ArcLink because everyone was talking about it. Nobody wanted to talk about the LPP for the most part where I was. They did mention it, but all that is to say, I did actually get an ArcLink at first. I got a placement and I ended up doing a couple months of that, and then that ended up falling through. I had the choice of either look for another ArcLink placement or wait and start with the LPP in August. I chose the latter. The reason for that is because while I was doing my 3 months of articling placement that I did have, I barely got any training. I didn't know what I was doing. My principal at the time didn't have the time to guide me and help me figure out where I needed to go and how to help him. So I decided to do the LPP because I knew that they had skills-based training and professional readiness, and like they were able to give you firm practice by building you the VLFs. We had two different firms that we got to work with. We had a whole bunch of different people and our mentors acting to guide us, and we were able to ask questions. We had a whole bunch of subject matters that we were constantly working on different timings and trying to work on file management, practice management, which is all very helpful and very useful. And the LPP gives you the tools to build that and learn that. And that was part of the reasoning of why I decided to wait an additional 7 months just to get back into learning and growing with the LPP program. So that's what the reason why I chose to go into the LPPs, because they actually give you that opportunity to learn the skills that you might not otherwise learn while doing articling. And if you do articling, it may take you most of your time there to actually just feel confident and comfortable. Leaving the first 4 months of the training program, I actually felt ready to get into the workplace, ready to hit the ground running. I'm doing mostly solicitor's work, but even so, every bit of research that I've done for criminal, family, all that just taught me how to pivot and look at different subject matters as the what it is for just looking at the actual subject. Sorry, train of thought loss. But the point is, you learn how to actually research those subjects as though they are the subject that you have always known, because they're all generally the same until you dig deep into it, and then and you pull apart the differences. And even here, learning how to do contracts, learning how to do uh, closing agendas and things like that is very relevant for what I've been doing. And even though I'm not doing a closing agenda, I'm using those same tools and templates to build actual projects that the business actually needs. So, and I'm feeling confident enough to be able to do that without being like, oh, what do I have to do every 2 seconds? But I also am feeling confident enough to know I'm here to learn, I'm here to grow, and working in a place that I can actually ask these questions, because they're part of the my placement was one of the placements that the LPP was able to find, and I was able to apply for and get. So they know what they're getting, they know what they're here for, and they know how we're going to help them. So that was what I got from joining the LPP and why I joined it.
Wonderful, wonderful, Ronan. Thank you so much for sharing. That is so great to hear. First off, that you were able to now actually contrast the two experiences of articling and what the LPP offers, because you've now seen it both from the inside. Now, something I want to touch on is this idea of the placement too, because you mentioned this, Ronan. You applied to one of the roles that we had posted. Tell us a bit about that process and also what's involved, so folks can appreciate how this actually unfolds, so we can understand a little bit about, okay, we don't guarantee a placement, but how do you end up securing something? So do tell.
Yeah. So with the LPP, there's two ways to obtain a placement, as Andre and Gina have mentioned before. There is the outreach aspect of it, and then there's the actual their systems and their internal systems that they actually provide different job postings that you could apply to. Both are actually essential, because while even if you're using the job postings that the LPP provides you, you need that confidence and comfort of talking to the employers, talking to different people, to really learn, to be able to just actually say what you need to say when you're actually there in the interviews. So doing your outreach first and building that confidence of, I am talking to other people. I am trying to have coffee chats with different lawyers, learning about them, learning about their processes and what they're looking for. That's also an important aspect of it. Even though that did not in itself get me my placement, that was part of the training for me to get my placement. And I know a lot of people who have actually gotten their placement through outreach alone. So both are very viable pathways to getting your placement. But when it comes down to how the LPP provides the placements on their system, they provide you the how you're supposed to do your resume, how to keep it professional, how to make sure your cover letters are polished and clean. They help you review over what you need to do. Then you also have your peers that help you review over what you need to do. And the more and more you work together, the better it's going to be able to actually make sure you're providing a polished product to the employers. And that works for either the outreach or through the systems that the LPP provide you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ronan. I really appreciate it. And Danielle, I wanted to ask you as well a little bit about the client interactions that you mentioned. You said you're obviously interacting with clients now in the uh, placement that you're in, but during the training component, you mentioned clients, and hoping you could share with everybody what you meant by that and also how it also unfolds. So do tell.
Yeah, so as part of the LPP, you're put in a VLF, so a virtual law firm, as they explained before, and you're basically in a team with other candidates, and you form part of like a law firm. And then, depending on the client file, you have different clients, which are essentially actors that have sort of a set plan or a legal issue that they would like solved. And so, a lot of the times, you will get sort of a little bit of information about who's coming for the virtual interview. So this is set up through Zoom. And then you meet with these clients and you talk to them a little bit about their sort of legal issue. And at the same time, you would be taking notes. Sometimes the Zoom calls will be recorded and then submitted. So then feedback can be provided back to you, whether by somebody on the LPP team or by your mentors. And it sort of gives you a chance to interact with different clients, whether they be more sophisticated clients or clients that are coming in that don't really understand that area of law. And it gives you the chance to sort of, speak to people in different ways, because sometimes you're prepared to give the whole spiel of what's going on and what this law is or whatever. And then the person that sits across from you on the screen knows exactly what you're talking about. And that's not really what they need to know. They need to know something else from you. So the LPP also gives you a chance to interact with different sorts of clients and figure out, where do I start? Does the client have context? Do they not? Do I need to go back to ground zero, or can I sort of skip that and go to things that are a little bit more, I guess, legally advanced or a little bit more technical?
Wonderful. And Danielle, you mentioned sometimes they already know what they want, or sometimes they don't when they come to you. They also probably, and do tell, may come to you in different states of readiness, if you will. Um, for instance, maybe in the wills and estates when it comes to competence or when it comes to something else. Are these elements that you then have to now figure out how to deal with in this safe to risk environment so that you are ready for when you are in the actual placement and then in practice?
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of the times, some things are not directly communicated. So you also need to be able to learn how to pick things up and sort of as you start talking to your client, figure out, okay, well, is this exactly what they want? Is there someone sort of like um, hypothetically breathing over their shoulder and saying, this is what you should be doing, this is what you shouldn't be doing? So you need to really be able to talk to your client and get a little bit more as you start sort of picking apart the story. You sort of figure out what exactly is that they want, if it's something that they're not overtly saying, or perhaps they don't want to say something, and you pick up on these context clues based off of these conversations, and you're better able to sort of navigate the legal issue once you sort of understand the bigger picture.
Wonderful, wonderful. And now you're definitely not left on your own with any of this, right? Because we've got foundational videos and resources that are all part of this process. And I'm going to ask you first, Danielle, and maybe Ronan to chime in on this. How did you get yourself prepared for each of these things? Like it wasn't that we threw you in feet first and said, go for it. But in fact, you were given some lead up as part of it. Do tell.
That's exactly right. So as part of the sort of portal where you get all of your information, there's so many resources available, whether it be primary resources or even additional resources of certain case law that you can use. They have a really great precedence. So when you actually need to draft something up, you can go in, find this precedent. There's annotated precedents, so you can figure out, well, what does this exactly mean? Because sometimes I'll read something and I don't understand the legal jargon. I have to read it over and over and over. But the LPP will provide you with the sort of annotated one where it sort of simplifies exactly what they're saying in a more simple, ready to understand, ready to read sort of way. And you're able to understand, okay, this is what they're asking of me. This is what the substance of what this piece of paper that I need to hand in means. There's also a lot of videos. So you have a lot of legal experts that are coming in, whether it be live on webinars or virtually through the video portals, and they will sort of explain how to do things, what certain things mean, what certain concepts are. So they sort of give you a really great overview as well as more specific resources to help you sort of explain what the specific type of area of law is about, what the project is sort of expecting from you, and then you can sort of move on from there. And there's a lot of other tools too, so like legal databases for research, as I mentioned before, case law, which sort of helps you navigate what's expected of you and how to be able to, replicate that in an adequate way.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Danielle and Ronan. Could you share a bit about your experience then with the array of resources and also how you can leverage them?
All right. So first, as a little bit of a side, some people may say that there's not enough resources, but for the most part, those are the people that didn't look for them. As Andre and Gina said, this is not a gotcha program. Everything is provided. Everything is there. You're going to be guided through from the beginning to the end. There are some of the resources are not always so easy to find in the sense of they're not on the first web page, but there's also the other web page, and you should get familiar with that one because that web page is where you're going to be applying for your jobs. That's where you're going to get all your information and templates from. That's where you're going to get the slides from your sessions that you're going to be doing at some points. Like there's information galore. I've read every document from front to back. That includes their policies, how they're going to go through the systems, and again, you don't have to do it as often as I did, but you should look it over because it's literally there. It's written for you. They give you all everything you need from front to back. They tell you how to do your file management. They show you examples of how to do your file management. They show you examples of how to do it if you don't want to do it on a computer. They show you all different methods to do everything that you're going to need to do. And as Daniela said already, you're going to have templates. You're going to have explanation of those templates. You're going to have simplified versions of those templates. You're not going to get that all the time in practice, where in-house, I have no access to anything, right? So everything I have to do is from scratch, or use the information I learned from the LPP to help build those new templates here. So you have everything you need, and you will get as much out of this program as you're going to put into it as well. So read those things, read those, watch those videos, listen to those experts. Some of these experts are also are kind enough to say, hey, if you have questions, reach out to us. Here's our email. Don't be afraid to do that. That's part of the networking. That's part of the learning. That's part of the growing of being part of the LPP. So yeah, there's not much more I can share than what Daniela already did beyond that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. And Ronan, you mentioned something just now. You get out of the program what you put into it. And that is a very, very true element as part of this. The LPP has been designed to support your success, but your success can only come about if you're actually invested in it yourself and leveraging everything that's being provided as part of that. Now, I noticed in the interest of time as well, we've got to be able to switch gears a little bit into the question mode. But before we do that, any words of wisdom that Ronan, you want to pass on, and Daniela, before we make our move into the question side of things? Ronan, I let you go first.
Basically, the first thing I could think of is just don't be afraid to ask questions and don't be afraid to just do it. The more you do, the more you practice, the more confident you're going to be in it, right? If you're not used to talking, talk, right? We this year have been doing candidate cafes where you get to just meet with your fellow candidates and just converse. but like, don't be afraid. We're all here together. We're all working together to get and succeed and get our licenses.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ronan and Daniela.
Yeah, all I can really say, just to add on to Ronan's point, have the courage to just be able to do it. I know a lot of us put a lot of pressure on ourselves, but a quote that I learned through the LPP and I still use to this day is don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. So sometimes you put such high standards on yourself and you want to be able to do absolutely everything right, and you think that you have to, but law is not about perfection. It's about being able to sort of practice and keep learning as you grow. Like you talk to a lot of senior lawyers and they're still saying, listen, I'm still learning. There's up and coming like technology that's coming into the field right now that people are using and adopting. So you never really know everything. There's no way that you can make something absolutely perfect. The only thing that I can really say is utilize the resources and the things that are at your disposal to be able to create the best product that you possibly can. This is a learning environment. You're not going to get scolded for doing something wrong. Just try and put in all the effort that you can to make the best possible product and learn from your mistakes. Just hand it in, wait for the feedback. And then if you got something that you didn't really, want to see the first time, then make sure you apply the feedback that you receive from your mentors and from the program and be able to apply it to the next thing. And you will 100% succeed if you do things that way. So, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you both so much for sharing. Don't run away because we're going to go into the question period now, and we've got some other questions that are coming up. So I'm going to switch screens here a little bit, and I'm going to open it up with the first question around the licensing exams. Some folks are asking about doing the licensing exams during the training component or the work experience. And I'm going to let you know that again in the FAQs, we answered this question directly. We at the LPP strongly advise you not to do the licensing exams within the training component or the work experience, but in fact encourage you as much as possible to do it before joining the program. The reason we say that is because number one, the program itself from training and work experience period is pretty intense. You're not given study time. You're not given the opportunity to do what you need to do to prepare for those. And in fact, if you're trying to separate your time and do it simultaneously, you will likely not do a great job in either thing, meaning the exam or the training or the work experience, which then has repercussions overall for everything. The other part about doing the exams before joining the program, though, is that some of our employers actually ask for candidates to have written the exams before joining because they know they give you some input and some information to help you succeed both during the training and the work experience. So we strongly encourage you to do it beforehand if possible. So that is really our best advice. And based again on 12 years plus of experience, it's we have sort of the numbers to help us appreciate what would be the best scenario. But Daniela and Ronan, do you have anything to add on that point?
Yeah, the first thing is it is a full-time program. They are not joking. They are not puffing it up. They're not blowing some hot air. It is a full-time program. It's 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock, varying, but it is like a real place, a real job. I am literally here at 8 o'clock in the morning in my current placement, and maybe I leave at 6. Right? It is the program. You should treat it the same as if you were working. You do not have that much time to study. Try to get it done before. If that seems unreasonable because you need more time, that's okay. But wait until after.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ronan. Daniela.
Yeah, so I feel like I can speak to this because I made the mistake of doing the barrister exam during the program. I wrote it in November and I passed, thank God. But I would not recommend doing this whatsoever. As Ronan said, this is a full-time program. There's things coming at you left and right. It's not like you can expect something that's due on a certain day. It's a very rigorous pace. You have a lot of things due either the same day or the same week or one day after another. There is not enough adequate time to study. I started studying during the summer. So I was sort of halfway through the content before I started the LPP, which is why I said, okay, you know what? I'm just going to finish it and see how it goes. But in order to put your full 100% effort into both, you can't be doing both at the same time. I was definitely, as Andre said, I was stretching myself thin. There were days where I was waking up really, really tired. And that's just not something that it's not enjoyable. It's not enjoyable for anyone, for people that have to deal with you when you're cranky. So I would just say, you know what, either do it before or do it after, especially as Andre said too, some places I was limited to applying to because some of them did say, hey, listen, we would rather you have your exams completed before. And I was like, okay, well, unfortunately, this is not a place that I can apply to, which also limited my chances of getting a placement. So I strongly suggest not doing it during the LPP.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Daniela. And congrats on passing it, even with juggling and balancing that. The other part of what you just said a moment ago is how busy the training component is. And you have things due all different periods throughout the course of the business work week. You have shifting deadlines as a result of the real world circumstances that you will experience that happen during the LPP. We simulate that. But during the training component, you're also applying, as you said, for jobs. So you're actually also juggling now, looking for a job as part of that process. So it's like having two jobs already now, looking for a job and doing all the work of the training component. So imagine layering on additional issues or responsibilities as part of that. Now, someone has asked on that point, we have said to you very clearly, we don't guarantee a placement. We can't. And because of the nature of the employers make the final hiring decision. But what we can say to you is with our 12 years of experience, candidates who have done what we've asked and encouraged and done it well, not just doing it, but doing it well. Daniela is an example, Ronan is an example, and we have close to 3,000 other examples from the previous years of folks who have done this well. And they have secured opportunities for work placements as part of that, and they have then completed the program successfully. The pause where we say we don't guarantee really comes in for those folks who aren't committed and who have not done the things we've asked at the beginning. One of the key elements of our program is that we don't build in time for folks to slide or coast or to, basically not do what they need to do. From day one, we're actually in the thick of it. We get you to start on those opportunities that you're applying to and getting your material in the right way, meaning perfection, because these are your calling cards to employers, your resume and cover letter. An employer sees that you can't do a perfect, two-page resume and one-page cover letter. How can they trust you working on their documents and their practice with their clients? So that's an issue. But also, you're going to start with the foundational elements within the program as well as all of the different case files you're working on and the assignments. So while we can't guarantee, we do encourage folks to follow the advice because over these 12 years, success has followed on that front. But it is in your court, if you will, the ball is in your court to find that success as part of your commitment. Now, Gina wants to chime in here. And Gina, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Andre, and I really appreciate the input from Daniela and Ronan specifically on the licensing exams. And as Andre just said, one of the other factors, or two of the other factors that come up, one is what if I have to work during the training component? And that really is, for financial or other reasons. And well, financial is typically the reason. And we want to respect and understand that. But we also have to have you respect and understand what we are assessing you on for the Law Society, because this is a licensing qualification process, is your ability to complete the work that's being requested. And so some people do juggle, especially if there's some flexibility in the other work that they have. But it can be hard to juggle work, paid work, if you will, in the first half, as well as the training component. So I wonder if I see Ronan's hand up, so I'm going to ask him to comment on that in a second. And the other aspect, we also know that life happens. We have a great supportive team. Life happens from the perspective of people become new parents, people get sick, people's family gets sick, and we recognize that those issues do come up. And just like you would deal with it at a regular work workplace setting. We have our colleagues, Lee and others, who support you in terms of helping to adapt to that new reality as it comes up as well. So it's not just licensing exams that you have to focus on. This is full-time work. And when you're working, life happens. The question about working outside of the program is something that we want you to really, really seriously think about. Maybe this is not the right time. Ronan, you had some comments that we want to hear from.
Yeah. So again, yes, you can work for those of you who need to work. Like I get it. I was also there. I've been working during the LPP and doing the LPP program. It does get crazy because again, if you can't study for the bar exam and you're trying to work and you're trying to do the LPP, one thing tips it over the edge. Then I had some family matters that happened. I had people passing away. I had things literally going awry during the time that I was doing the LPP program plus working. You will get exhausted. You will become tired. You will slowly burn out. Manage your time, manage your rest. There are things you're not going to be able to predict. So try to manage the unexpected as well by giving yourself those times. So if you can avoid working, do it. If you can't, just be smart about it and give yourself those times to rest because you're going to burn out. You cannot do it all, and the LPP program is a full-time program. So just take care of yourselves, do what you need to do, but be ready. There are going to be unexpected things. That's just how life works. So be careful
And
and take care.
yeah, thanks for sharing that, Ronan. And also on that point, as Gina had mentioned, this is live real time. So we are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you need to be,
Eastern
this is your
Standard
job.
Time.
Eastern Standard Time, that's correct. So this is your job, right? 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you have another job, let's say it's overnight or in the evening, um, that again, as Ronan said, can burn you out. Plus, you also have the work that you need to do and produce for the LPP, again, live real time. So it's not that because we are online, we are in the virtual simulation that we're doing, it's all happening live real time. So you have to be available for your interviews, for your meetings, for all the types of things that will happen as part of it. So please appreciate that. And as Gina said, and as Ronan said as well, if this isn't the right time for you as a result of the other commitments in your life, be smart about it.
Mhm.
We'd love to have you as part of the program. We welcome you. We want to support you, but we can only support you if you're coming to us in a position where you can succeed in the program. We cannot fix the other factors outside of the program. We can only assess the factors that the LSO, for the purposes of licensing, have charged us with assessing. We have a job to do on our side as well. And if we cannot assess them, then you won't be able to succeed within the program. And ultimately, well, you have to make some choices there. So hopefully we've answered that question. Gina, back to you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. One of the things that I wanted to also say in terms of timing and thinking about this program for yourselves, and I'd love to hear Daniela and Ronan's comment. We are in the first part remote, so feeling comfortable and feeling confident that you can work in that fashion is really important. If you are a person that needs to go into an office 5 days a week, think about how you'll adapt to this program. And also, because it's remote, because it's online, we expect you to have a certain level of technological familiarity and comfort. Daniela and Ronan, you're using Google Drives and different databases on a regular basis. We can't teach that to you beforehand. There's some things that we will share with you in terms of resources, but we expect a certain level of comfort and familiarity technologically before you start the program. So keep those in mind as you're thinking about it. The fact that it is remote for the first part and technologically focused is something to keep in mind as you're thinking about this. Daniela and Ronan, any comments on those aspects?
I'll just make this one really quick. Um, yes, you're going to work from home for this. That you need to be comfortable with the technology, but you also need to make sure that the people around you are aware that you are working from home and that you're not available. Right? I have a very busy household. They do not respect boundaries. I had them to make sure I literally installed a lock on my door to ensure that they could not bother me. Right? it is a full-time program, you need that. And
Absolutely.
also, they will give you some resources. Gina and Andre, they provide you the resources. It is a good stepping stone. Use that to then Google and YouTube more information on how to do it better because it will help you. The more you are prepared, the easier it's going to be because that's less you're spending time on the technology and more on the focusing of the actual work.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Danielle, anything to add on that point?
Yeah, I just also wanted to add sometimes the interviews can be virtual as well. So it's also really important to not only be familiar with the tech, but also make sure that when you're showing up on Zoom or Google Meets, that you're in professional attire, you have like good lighting, you have like a good background, whether it be virtual or whether it be blurred, whatever the case may be, just because it's sort of, you're representing like your firm when you're in the LPP and you're also potentially representing the work placement that you're going to be going to as well. We do a lot of stuff online, so it is really important because sometimes you don't really know how to do the task itself. And then if you add on top of that the technical difficulties of not really knowing how to do things technologically, that can add a little bit more of a stressor. So if you need, like Ronan said, to go on YouTube or check the resources that are provided by the LPP, there's also tech sessions that are hosted that will sort of help you be able to navigate certain platforms that you've never used before. But yeah, just try to utilize all the resources as best as you can, just so you can, you know, feel comfortable using the tech so you can then get on to, drafting whatever it is that you need to draft.
And Daniela,
Wonderful.
sorry, I appreciated I know that Andre, there's a couple of questions about the placements being in Ontario or elsewhere, but or across Ontario. But let me just say the following because Daniela made a comment about having your backdrop, being professional. That answers a couple of questions that have come up. We are going into year 13. Articling's been around for a lot longer than that. So are employers all familiar with us? No, not everybody is. But we certainly, in those 13 years, have done a lot of outreach through our mentors, our subject matter experts, our assessors, our own outreach into the community, into the legal profession. More and more absolutely know about it. But also, people are asking, how do they get to know the great talent? We have a lot of alumni who are now back as mentors, back as subject experts, back as employers themselves. When they started off 13 years ago, they were in your position. They are now able to, they understand the program, they understand the benefits of the program. And I think everything that you do, from the resumes that you put out, the cover letters that you put out, the conversations that you have, the backdrops that you have when you're engaging in the professionalism with others, is really critical to help enhance the messaging of the quality of the program and of the candidates that come from the program.
Absolutely, Gina. And on that point also of the tech, uh, it's essential to have high speed, stable internet as part of all of this. We take it for granted that it's available in locations that we are in, major centers and all the rest of it. Um, while the program you could potentially do it from elsewhere, it's important that you have to have stable internet, stable high speed internet, the right technology when it comes to your computer and all the rest of it. So we strongly encourage you to assess that, look at our resources on that point. If you are not in a position, then this will be tremendously challenging and in fact frustrating for you as well. The other part of it too, and Gina mentioned this, for those of you who may think this could be done because the first part is online outside of the province, we don't encourage it because the success rate of those who are outside of the province is extremely low. In fact, negligible because of not being able to connect with their colleagues easily, not being able to connect with employers easily, and also not being able to network as part of the overall process. Something that we're going to mention throughout the program is networking and community building because our profession is built on relationships. It is how we get work from others by referral. It is how we also get support when we need it. It is also how we learn. It's also how we build our reputations. And if you're not in a position to be able to do that in this province and in the way that's fulsome enough to set you up for success during the program, you probably won't find it later on after licensing. And again, this is Ontario based. It's an Ontario licensing program. We've had some folks think about it in a very creative way in other situations where maybe, well, I get licensed in Ontario and go somewhere else. Be mindful that's not necessarily going to be the case. And you may have other challenges outside of that. So this is really for Ontario, licensing, practicing, building yourself in Ontario as a practicing lawyer. So this is what this is all about. Now, Gina, you said you had some other questions for us, so I'm going to let you fire away as you go on that
Yeah.
point.
No, and I think one of the questions was, do we have positions across Ontario? And the answer is absolutely. But also we encourage you to seek out, there are only there are certain places in Ontario where we may not have any past connections. And we can't, make the assumption that we will be able to find a connection in a place that we have not been to before. Certain locations, absolutely. But that's where your outreach and your connection would really, really be useful as well.
Yeah.
And keeping an open mind. We've had people who've had to move residences and go to where the opportunities are potentially for the right opportunity. And so please
Yeah.
keep that in mind. We want you to think broadly about, Daniela didn't think that she wanted to do family law. Well, there was an opportunity, and whoa, that's where she is now looking at and is thriving. And so keeping an open mind about what the possibilities are, where they might be, I think is really critical. We've got a
Yeah.
couple more minutes.
And
So, Andre?
and on that point, Gina, too, if you have a particular geographic location or particular area of practice that's of interest, or something else that's driving you as you think about this, it's your job, as Ronan pointed out too, and Daniela a moment ago. You've got to do the outreach. You've got to educate lawyers in those areas. You've got to let them know that you have that initiative and that drive to find them, to connect with them professionally, and to help them learn about the program and hopefully then create an opportunity for yourself. While we do that as well, when it comes to our outreach and our team, it's your job as well to do it simultaneously. Sorry, Gina, you're
No,
about to
no,
say.
Andre, on that
Yeah.
point, can you speak very briefly about what resources, because we're coming up to the hour and 15, what what they can use if they are speaking to a
Yeah.
potential employer to describe what the LPP is, because we have a form.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, as Gina mentioned, we have a lot of resources to help on that front. We actually title them Conducting Outreach. They're in our LPP job site database, and you'll have full access to all of that: sample emails, sample scripts, outreach material, sample templates for your resume and cover letter, all that type of stuff. In addition to that, if you have your own employer already, I'm going to switch over to our website for a moment. And if you go to the employers section of our website and click on employers and you scroll down, you're going to see a brief overview of the program, but also getting started. And if they want to hire you, let's say you're already coming to the program with somebody in mind, or you found somebody through your outreach, they can click on hire a candidate here. And what it'll do is put them into an online form called the EPF, the employer profile form. And they need to complete this form and they can include your name on the form if this is something that you have procured for yourself, or if it's a job that an employer wants to post to see applications from all of our candidates, they can indicate that as well. And all the information is here to be filled out. Once this gets filled out, our team will then review it, confirm the validity of it, and will then determine next steps to have an employment agreement, a work experience agreement, sorry, signed by you and the employer to have that locked in place. Again, these work experiences happen over the January to April period. That is how the program works. It's sequential from the training component. So you're doing all of this during the training component to be able to secure and start your placement in January. I can't believe I'm saying this, but January 2027. It's unbelievable how fast the time flies, but it does fly very quickly. Gina, anything
Speaking of
else?
which, we're at 116. We want you to take all the information that you heard. We have a tremendous, every year, tremendous cohort of people from Canadian law schools, from international law schools, from all sorts of experiences and backgrounds that really help you, together with the vast number of lawyers from the province who support you and an incredible team to support you as you move forward in your licensing journey. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope we've answered many of your questions. We look forward to seeing your names in our registration when we get that from the LSO very soon. All the best, and thanks so much to Andre, Daniela, and to Ronan. Goodbye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.